All right, a significant development, maybe even a surprise here, where 5 Republicans, including Lindsey Graham, a close confidant and supporter of the president, voting that, yeah, it's probably a good idea to allow witnesses. He joins Ben Sasse of Nebraska, Mitt Romney of Utah, Susan Collins of Maine, and Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. 5 Republican senators who are open to the idea of witnesses. Now, the reason why that is a significant development is it could significantly lengthen this entire process. You've been hearing from the president's lawyer or part of his team, Michael Van Der Veen, who was saying that, you know, you make this move, I'm going to have to depose a lot of folks and maybe 100 or more. I'm going to want to do it in Philadelphia, and he got some chuckles over that. He was saying that, you know, that is my right, and that's the way these type of procedures go. But again, these type of procedures here at the point we are a bit unprecedented here. Now, a lot of this was born of this news of a call that the House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, had with the president, Donald Trump, at the time in the middle of this siege of the Capitol, in which he said, you've got to call them off, Mr. President, you got to call them off. He relayed this conversation to Republican Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler. You might recall she was one of 10 Republican congressmen who voted for impeachment in the House. McCarthy had apparently told her that he had told the president to publicly and forcefully call off the riot. The president reportedly said in response, this is coming from Congresswoman Herrera Butler's account of that conversation, well, Kevin, again, coming from Donald Trump, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are. The news of that spread like wildfire. There's no confirmation of this. Lindsey Graham wanted that to be investigated a little bit more. But obviously there was enough hullabaloo over it that Lindsey Graham himself is now interested in witnesses. So this changes a lot of things. Chad Pergram, on how significantly so. What are we looking at now, Chad?
This is an earthquake on Capitol Hill. This really shifted the tectonic plates of this trial dramatically, because what this means, and if you look at the actual impeachment rules, the framework set up for this trial, that means that you're probably going to have the trial go dark for a couple of weeks if they do it by the book, and have to have witnesses and depositions. Again, you had Jamie Raskin, the lead impeachment manager. He was saying, look, you know, I'm going to do this by Zoom. We can do this rather quickly. And as you point out, Mike Van Der Veen, the counsel for the president, he said, no, we're going to do this in Philadelphia. And he emphasized each syllable of the city of Philadelphia. He said, in my office. He wants Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. He wants Kamala Harris, the Vice President. He said he would have to take, 100 depositions. We had a vote to subpoena witnesses last time, and there were 2 Republican senators who voted yes in the impeachment trial in 2020, Mitt Romney and Susan Collins. You also had this gateway vote where the Senate trial took off for about a week or so in 1999 with President Clinton. That was a little more baked into the cake. We thought today, maybe even by late morning, midday, we would be through with final arguments in this case, and barring anything unexpected here, they could be, breaking this off, having depositions, coming back later in February. Keep in mind how this runs headlong into the issue of trying to finish a coronavirus bill. And I wouldn't be surprised that if some of the Republicans, they saw that Democrats were willing to go to the mat and request witnesses in this case. The fact that Jamie Raskin up until this point, and Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, he kept deferring to Raskin, saying, well, we'll see what Congressman Raskin, the lead impeachment manager, has to say. And once Raskin opened that door, Republicans said, OK, we're going to jump on the bandwagon here because we see an opportunity to drag this out. Some of that is probably steeped in the idea that they do want to learn more about those conversations and also see what was afoot there that day. But some of it also is political, frankly. They think, OK, this is bad politics for the Democrats. They think it was bad, obviously, for the Democrats to even pursue this impeachment trial ex post facto of a former president. That's significant right here. So they're expected to drag this thing out. I mean, what's so interesting, Neil, is so much of what they do on Capitol Hill is scripted. We go in and we kind of know where the score is going to be in the 8th and 9th inning. Today we came in, we don't know how this is going to end. That is what's significant. We've only had a few days like that in my time on Capitol Hill here, where the apple cart is so upset because you expect it to go one way and then it dramatically changes. And that's where I talk about the political tectonic plates shifting dramatically here this morning. Neil?
I'm just wondering, has Kevin McCarthy himself ever confirmed this this so-called conversation that was reportedly shared with the Congresswoman.
You see, and that's something that's up in the air. You know, some of this is so brand new, we don't really know. Keep in mind that Kevin McCarthy, it was widely reported that he had this screaming match with the President of the United States, you know, trying to get the National Guard up here, you know, while his office was being ransacked and marauders going through it. You know, he said later on the floor when the House reconvened to certify the electoral votes, that this was the worst day he had ever seen in Congress. You know, he was a staffer for Bill Thomas long before he was a congressman here. Bill Thomas, Republican from California and chair of the Ways and Means Committee, so he's well steeped in Capitol Hill. That's a big question here, you know, and so this is why you have just not deposing these witnesses, but if you look at the section of the resolution establishing the framework for this impeachment trial, it talks about discovery. Discovery is a legal term that you often see applied in a court of law where both sides go in and they say, well, what did this person know and what piece of evidence or documents or pieces of paper or you know, you get a time frame together, something like that. You know, that takes time. This is one of the few times in this very political process. And an impeachment trial, the founders intended an impeachment trial to be a political process, actually starts to mirror what goes on in a court of law. And what has also shifted here is that the impeachment managers who were heralded with their presentation earlier in the week may have lost, you know, ball control, because what this really does is this goes over to Mike Vanderveen and the president's attorneys, and he's like, okay, we're going to have Nancy Pelosi in my office. What this means that they will treat this more like a regular conventional courtroom trial, and that's different than a trial that you have in the Senate. And so maybe, you know, the impeachment managers, as I say, lost a little bit of ball control here. That is significant, and that's why this is so organic, why this is shifting so dramatically here this morning.
Thank you, my friend, very, very much. I will no doubt be going back to you repeatedly today. The significant development here, really the surprise was that 5 Republicans are now on board wanting to hear from witnesses. And the more significant development was that Lindsey Graham, in that roll call vote, started out as a no, switched to a yes. Given his closeness to the president, his support of the president, could that, you know, inspire other Republican senators heretofore who might have voted to acquit to at least hear out witnesses, see where this process goes? Way too early to tell.